Hello, veterinary friends. Welcome to the podcast. Today, I have a very special guest for you. Her name is Rhonda Britten. She's an Emmy Award winner. She's a master coach and a repeat guest on Oprah, which I want to hear about. She's a 4-time best-selling author with her groundbreaking book, Fearless Living. She's also the founder of the Fearless Living Institute. She was the first life coach on television in the entire world and appeared for 3 seasons as the head life coach on the hit daytime NBC show Starting Over. Welcome to the podcast, Rhonda. This is really exciting. I'm really happy to have you here.
Thank you, Julie. I'm excited to be here too.
Yeah. So my first question to all my guests is to tell me their story, because I like to hear how people got from where they started to where they are today. So you can tell me as much or as little as you want to share.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, one of the things that I know to be true, I believe to be true, that our darkest days, our most toughest days, our most horrific days actually have the seed of our destiny. So if everyone can start thinking of their worst days with seed of their destiny, I'm knowing that in hindsight, whether it's a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you will see a direct line. And I know that's true for me. So my worst day was when I was 14 years old. And I grew up in a little tiny town in Upper Michigan, 365 inches of snow a year.
In the UP.
That's right, in the UP.
You told me before we started. So any of you
I'm a
Michigan
Youper.
people,
I'm a
she's
Youper. That's right, I'm a Youper. And we had 2 restaurants, the fancy Douglas House Buffet Hotel. And if you know the UP, you know which town I lived in, because there's only
Right.
Douglas Hotel buffet. And then Big Boy, that's all we had. McDonald's was in Marquette, an hour and a half away. That was the big time, but we didn't have
Wow.
any fast food.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so my parents had recently separated, and it was Father's Day. And so my father was coming to take us out for Sunday brunch, which was a big deal because there's 3 kids, 2 adults, 5 people. That's a lot of money. We never went out to eat. We got a pizza once in a while. That's about it, right?
Right, right. It wasn't a
So
big thing.
it wasn't a big thing, no. And so my father's coming to take us out to brunch, big deal. My mother is in her bedroom puffing up her beehive hairdo, putting on her rose-colored lipstick, putting on that blue eyeshadow, right?
Yeah.
2 sisters are in our one bathroom fighting it out. My dad walks in the back door. Come on, come on, come on, come on, girls, let's go, because that's what dads do. And so me and my mom start walking towards the back door. My sister is still in the bathroom fighting it out. And as we start walking out, my dad noticed it's raining. And so he says he's got to get his coat from the car. Now, this coat was a tan Naugahyde leisure suit coat, which back in the day with his polyester pants and, checkered shirt looked
Was
pretty
all
damn
that.
hot, right? Like that was hot. Okay. So
Yeah.
my dad opens his trunk to grab his coat, and out of the corner of my eye, I realize he's not grabbing a coat, but he's grabbing a gun. And he starts yelling at my mother, "You made me do this. You made me do this."
No.
And he fires. And I start screaming,
Holy.
"Dad, what are you doing? What are you doing, Dad? What are you doing?" And he points the gun at me, and I
Oh,
actually believe I'm next. And he blinks, I blink, he blinks, I blink. And then my mother, who already has 1 bullet in her, sees what's happening and screams out, "No, don't." And my father, realizing my mother is still alive, he takes that bullet intended for me and shoots my mother a second time. And
no way.
yes way. And then that second bullet goes through my mother's abdomen, out her back, and lands into the car horn. And for the next 20 minutes, all I hear is, "Eh." And then my father cocks the gun for a 3rd time, puts it to his head and fires.
Oh,
Then 2 minutes, I was the
poor thing.
sole witness of watching my father murder my mother and commit suicide in front of me.
Mm,
I don't know how anybody else would respond. I can only tell you how I responded.
right,
I thought it was my fault because I was there. I was the only one physically there that could have stopped it. And I didn't
right,
gun and I didn't kick his shins and I didn't jump in front of my mother. I did nothing wrong.
right, right. You didn't know what to do because you were a kid.
Yes, but I think most adults wouldn't know what to do, right? Like you just,
Well, yeah, yeah. You
right?
would just freeze.
Right.
Yeah.
So here I am. I think that day, what I like to say is I split into 2 that day. The
Yeah.
outside Rhonda and the inside Rhonda. So the outside Rhonda stayed a straight A student, class president, leading singer of the choir. Again, I went to a very small school, leading
Right, right.
plays, right? So I was still like, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, everything's fine, I'm fine. But the inside Rhonda had a lot of guilt, shame.
Wasn't fine. Yeah.
Yeah, was definitely not fine, definitely
Yeah.
not fine. And so by the time I hit college, I went to school in Minnesota, a couple states over. So nobody knew my story, which was awesome. Nobody knew. And so I
Right.
found alcohol, and alcohol really helped numb all those things. So I became an
Yeah.
alcoholic.
Oh,
Ended
brother.
up getting 3 DUIs, and I ended up attempting to commit suicide 3 times. And it was that third suicide attempt that I realized something. I realized I'm not very good at killing myself, not very skilled,
Oh,
right?
man.
And I got to figure out another way. So, by the way, when you try to kill yourself 3 times, they eventually do put you in a psychiatric ward for evaluation. And so
Right.
they locked me away for a few days, deemed me not crazy, let me go. And I go back to my little tiny studio apartment, and I just tell myself, there has to be another way. Because whatever I've done hasn't worked. Now, mind you, all those years I was drinking, DUIing, and suiciding, I was also going to therapy, reading books, going to workshops. I was doing
Trying
everything.
to help yourself.
Straight A
Yeah.
student, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I read my first self-help book when I was 12, and at 13, I was going to be a minister.
Mm.
So I was doing everything that everybody would have said you should do.
You need to
I was doing
do.
all the
Yeah.
right things. And
Right.
so I was getting a lot of knowledge and I was getting a lot of tools, but I couldn't get rid of the feeling that there was something wrong with me. I just couldn't
Right.
get rid of that feeling. So here
Yeah.
I am in my apartment alone. They just released me. And I just say to myself, I have to start over. I have to completely start over because everything I've done hasn't helped me. It hasn't changed
Right.
the situation.
Right. Yeah.
So I
Nothing's
asked
changed.
myself, what do kindergartners do? Well, they get calendars and gold stars. So I actually went to the store, got a calendar and gold stars. And I still have this calendar, by the way. And I started giving myself a gold star anytime I did anything positive, anything that was hopeful, anything that let me know that I could change. And so we're talking about drinking and not getting drunk or, getting angry and not breaking anything. That's the level of awareness I was at. And
Wow.
but after 30 days, I had a calendar filled with gold stars. And I have to tell you, because I still, like I said, I still have that calendar. It's in my office. And I will look at it sometimes and I am so proud of that girl. I'm so proud of that.
How old were you when you
I
did
was
this?
27. I was
Okay.
27.
Okay.
And so I'm so proud of her because she was still fighting for her life, right?
Right.
And in the
Right.
midst of trying to kill herself. When she didn't, she had to fight for herself because I also realized when I didn't die that there's a reason I must not be dying because I was really trying to die. And when I
Right.
kept waking up, I was like, what the hey?
Right.
And so
Who
there
keeps
must be,
saving me?
right, there must be a reason. And so then it became about what the heck is the reason, right? Like, why am I alive? Because
Sure.
I don't want to be alive, right? I'm not
Right.
interested in this life.
Yeah.
So that set me on a trail that I moved into some spiritual work. I became a spiritual practitioner. I did a lot of more workshops. I also went into ministerial school, things like that. And it eventually brought me in a roundabout way, which I can tell you or not, into the coaching world years later. And
Okay.
so, but I really know that that event when I was 14, I absolutely believe, and whether it's true or not is irrelevant to me
Right.
because it helps me, it supports me, is I like to think of me and my mom and my dad up in heaven. We're 3 angels hanging out. We're not
Yeah.
mom, dad, and Rhonda, daughter. We're just 3 angels. And we're
Right.
thinking about the next lifetime. Oh, what do we want to do next lifetime? Oh, what do we want to do next lifetime? Right.
Yeah.
And the angel who's my dad was like, "Oh, let's do something really good." And we're like, "Yeah, yeah, let's do something really good." And he goes, "Hey, Rhonda, what about you helping people master fear?" And I'm like, "Me? Help people master fear? Wow, really? Me?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think, yeah, you can do it." And he goes, "Oh, but something bad's gonna have to happen to you." Oh, yeah. We go, "Yeah, something bad's gonna have to happen." And he goes, "Okay, okay, what about I play the bad guy this year, this time around, this lifetime? And I'll be the dad. And how about you be the mom and I'll kill you and then I'll kill myself in front of you." And we're all like, "Yeah, great idea," right? Awesome idea, right? Awesome idea.
Yeah.
And so
It's
then, of
quite a
course,
story.
come to Earth. We forget all of our roles. We forget why we agree. Forgot why we agreed, right? We forgot all.
Right. Right.
And it just took me almost 20 years to really realize that for me is the truth in the sense, right? Like that happened to me um,
To put you on this
to
path.
put me on this path.
Right.
And
Yeah.
even though, some could say I spent all those years lost and crawling through glass, that too is part of that. And
It
that's why I say to
absolutely is.
people, everything you've ever done, every job you've ever had, every dark night you've ever gone through, every glass you've ever crawled through, everything you've succeeded at and failed is used for your service, is used for your next purpose, used for your ability to live the life your soul intended. So
Right.
everything is used, and this was used in big ways.
Well, and that's such an intense story. Like that is not a normal, I lost my job or, I got bullied when I was a kid. Like those are the things that traumatize most people. So how do you relate with your story to people that have, I guess, more normal
Normal
issues,
trauma, normal.
right? Yeah,
Well,
normal trauma, I guess is a good
well,
way to
I
say it.
really, really believe that everything is everything. Like I don't believe that
No.
somebody who is raped is lesser, bad things than I did, right? I don't believe
Right.
that somebody who is in a car accident is lesser than me. I don't think that
Yeah.
at
It's just
all.
trauma is trauma.
Trauma is trauma is trauma. Pain is pain is pain. Crawling through glass is crawling through glass.
Yeah.
We're all here on this lifetime to do whatever we're meant to do. So you've been maybe assigned or you agreed to be in a car accident, and I agreed to have that happen to me. And so
Yeah.
that what it is irrelevant to me, because what I know to be true is that it was born from fear. And that fear is what we are here to master. That fear is the greatest block to our soul's expression. Fear is it. I mean, Bible 365 times, every sage in the world talks about fear. There's nobody that isn't wise and sageful, doesn't talk about fear.
Yeah.
But nobody actually tells you how to solve it. So that's what I did. So
Okay.
I really, when I was trying to save myself, I would read books and they would say, love yourself more. And I would always say, how do you love yourself more when you don't know how to love yourself? Right.
Right.
Or they
Yeah.
would say,
Doesn't mean
just
anything.
be willing to turn failure into success. Well, how do you turn failure into success if you don't know how to do that?
Right.
So I'm a huge how person. And I
Yeah.
am a firm believer that all this, so much of our self-help, so much of our spiritual development, so much of the work out there is really talking about large concepts. It's like, be fearless. You hear go a keynote speaker, oh, just you master your fear. It's like, okay, how do I do that?
Right. Right.
And
And get your purpose, get your values. Yeah. It's
how do
all
you do
kind of,
right?
it's just,
How do you do that?
right. It's just
Right?
words, right?
Right, exactly. So I, I always say that, maybe I went through hell and back because one, I didn't give up, but two, the how became so critical to me because I finally got to the point that I was no longer embarrassed or felt stupid to go like, how do you do that? I don't,
Right. You had to
you know,
figure it out because you
I
needed to.
really,
Your
yeah,
life
that's right.
depended on it.
My life depended on it. So
Mhm.
I really work on the how. How do you start loving yourself? How do you get fearless? How do you find your purpose? What do you do? What are the steps to do that?
Right.
And they're not, just like, oh, just get into your meditative state and you'll come to you. Maybe, but maybe not, right? Right. And so
Yeah.
again, meditation's a great tool, but it
Sure.
may or may not, open you up to your
Solve your problems. Yeah.
right. Meditation
Yeah.
is, I mean, how many people do you know that meditate and are still jerks, right? So meditation in of itself doesn't teach you skills on how to show up in the world.
Right.
It's meant to make you be in the present moment. And
Right.
do you keep that when you're not meditating? Too many people don't, right?
Right.
So again, all these things are tools, and my purpose in life is to help people understand how fear works because fear is the thing that blocks 99.99% of us to do the next thing that we want to do, whether that's a loving relationship, whether that's healing a relationship, whether that's finding our purpose, whether that's opening a business, whatever it is, whether it's,
Right.
mending a relationship with your mother. It doesn't
Right.
matter what it is. So
It's
whatever you're
all fear based.
hesitating about, right? Whatever you're, hesitating about, whatever you're regretting about, whatever you're worried about, whatever you're wondering about, the reason you're not taking action is because there's some fear there. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about that, about fear. I mean, I always call our primitive brain the Chihuahua brain because if you've ever met a Chihuahua that's terrified of life,
Right, right.
that's kind of how I picture the
Yep.
primitive brain. It's like it's constantly reacting. It doesn't know what's going on. It's terrified. So
Yes.
how do you teach that to people that okay, that fear is normal, but it's also something that you can, I don't want to say fix, but it's something that you can overcome.
You can transcend it.
Okay, I
You can
like that word.
transcend it
Good
and
word.
and you can also integrate it into your life.
Okay.
If you don't have fear, that means you're not making bold decisions. If you don't have fear, that means you're not growing. So
Right.
fear is just a sign that you're moving into the unknown, period, end of story. But
Yeah.
what we don't know, what we're not taught is that there's physical fears and emotional fears. And all of us can talk about our physical fears. Like you know, you're at a bar, at a party, at family gathering because who wants to see snakes? And we're all like, yeah, we don't want to see snakes. And I don't like heights. Me neither. I'm not bungee jumping. No way. Right. And we're all like,
Right.
yeah. Right. Like
Yeah.
none of us, most of us, I should say, don't hesitate to talk about our physical fears,
Sure.
but we're not even aware of our emotional fears. We're not even aware. I mean, during that whole time I was drinking, DUI, and suiciding, like I said, I had zero knowledge that I was afraid. Zero knowledge. If you
Right.
have asked me after my third suicide attempt and me
Yeah.
sitting in my apartment, if I was afraid, I would have said no.
Right.
Not
But it
one.
makes so much sense because you grew up, I mean, you saw a horrific thing and then you grew up with no family. So of course you're terrified.
Right, but I had no knowledge of that,
Right.
no
Right.
understanding to that. And I think that's the number one, the number one thing that I come across in my work is that people don't think they have fear, right?
Okay.
They don't think they have it.
Right.
And they don't realize how much of it runs their life. They only think of fear in those big moments, like I'm afraid to get engaged, I'm afraid,
Right.
right? People are now in our culture will admit like, oh, I'm like nervous about starting my business, right? But it's on a daily basis that we're encountering fear, and
Sure.
people are completely clueless about it. So,
Right.
do you mind if I give people a test right now?
No, do it.
Okay, great. So, when I go give a keynote or a talk, I give this little test because, again, one of the things is people don't even know that they have fear. So,
Right.
I'm going to read a list of words, and if it's safe to shut your eyes, shut your eyes. If it's not, don't. And
Okay.
nod your head if you do any of these things or feel any of these things. So, nod your head every time you do any things or feel any of these things for everyone
Okay.
listening. So, do you ever deny yourself? Do you ever isolate? Do you ever pretend everything's okay when it's not? Do you ever hide out? You ever whine? You ever settle? Ever compare yourself? Ever secretly manipulate? Ever get defensive, judging? Do you judge people? Judge yourself? Do you complain? What about procrastinate? Do you wait and call it patience? Do you blame? Do you struggle? Do you worry? Do you deflect? Do you control? Do you ever feel bitter? What about powerless, resentful, entitled, guilty? What about disappointed? Do you ever find yourself being a perfectionist or a people pleaser? What about overwhelmed? What about anxious? What about irresponsible, irritated, like you might feel now, me reading these words, ignored, get caught in self pity, annoyed, or feel like a victim?
Like all of the above.
All, yeah, and all of the above, yes,
At some time, yeah, at some time, all of the above, right?
yeah,
And
right.
that's
So
what
when
a
I
lot of people come for coaching for, right? Those are like a million things. Veterinarians are super perfectionistic. They're overwhelmed with the gravity of their job and their family and trying, yeah, it's all it's all yes.
Yes. So most audiences, I mean, if I talk to an audience of 1,000 people or 100 people, 95% of the audience will have over 95%, and I dare say
Sure.
100%. So
Yeah, because it's like
we,
a human thing, right?
it's a fear thing.
Yeah,
So all of these things people think are their problems. Like you said, this is why they come to coaching, right?
right,
They think
right,
I'm a procrastinator. I've got to solve that. I'm a people
right. But
pleaser.
they're
I've got to
afraid of
solve that.
something.
I'm
Yeah,
anxious, right? And yet, what the truth is that you can't feel anxious unless you're afraid. You can't feel overwhelmed unless you're afraid. You can't
right,
complain without fear. You can't get defensive without fear. You can't judge
right,
without fear. So
right.
everybody's changing chairs of the Titanic, trying to not be a perfectionist and not be a people pleaser.
Yeah, and they only
But
need
they,
one word. It's fear.
that's correct. And
Yeah,
so then what do you do? Well, that's why I created the Wheel of Fear and the Wheel of Freedom. So the Wheel of Fear is a model that I use to support people in understanding what their core fear is, which then gives permission to all the fear responses. And by the way, the first thing people can start doing just right now in this moment is instead of blaming themselves and beating themselves up for procrastinating or people pleasing or complaining, et cetera, is instead of making it a character flaw and a problem and something's wrong with you, instead say, oh, that's a fear response. Just start relabeling it. A fear response will start giving you
yes,
space to think differently, which, by the way, that's one of the ways you move from your primitive brain to your executive brain, right? That's
right.
one of the ways because you need that moment. That's why one of my mottos is slow is the new fast, because you really have to slow down to catch it in order to shift.
Right.
If you're moving fast, you're not going to catch it until 3 weeks later. And then
Right.
you're going to be like, I can't believe I didn't notice it then. You're beating yourself up, right?
Yeah. Well,
So
that's one of the key skills I think when you're coaching yourself or attempting to coach yourself is just the awareness.
yeah,
Like if you're aware that that's a fear response, that's a huge first step.
it's a huge first step
Yeah.
because now you're shifting the paradigm because neuroscience tells us the only way to change our lives is changing our perception. That's
Right.
it. That's the only
Yeah.
thing. I can give you all the tools in the world, but if you're still looking through the lens of fear while I teach you how to solve people pleasing, your fear doesn't care what it gives you to stop you because
Right.
fear only wants to keep you safe. So it doesn't
Yeah.
care if you people please or perfectionist or be a perfectionist.
As long as you feel safe when you're
As
doing
long as you stop, as long
it.
as you
Right.
don't go crazy in that unknown place. So
Yeah.
if you go to people pleasing school and quit people pleasing and learn to put up boundaries, fear doesn't care because it'll just give you another problem, right?
Right.
And that's
Right.
why people feel like they're a hamster on a wheel because
Yeah.
why am I still doing this? Why am I still doing this? Well,
Right.
because you haven't, gone to the root. Instead, you just keep recycling the fear responses.
Yeah. Now, are there like actual core fears that most people have? 'Cause I read a book not too long ago about that, and it was like, okay, we all have these core fears,
Hmm.
and then we all have defense mechanisms that we use to kind of, avoid that fear. Is that
Hmm.
kind of your
Yeah, and I
um
would shift that language. Not that that's not correct language, but I would
okay.
shift that language because the way that I like to perceive the world is that Julie, and me, Rhonda, would never beat ourselves up if we were in our whole complete state, right? If we were living true to ourselves, we would
Right.
never do that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I don't see overwhelm and worry as defense mechanisms to fear. I
Right.
see them as stemming from fear to stop us from going in the unknown, right?
Right.
So
Okay.
if you think of it that way, then that actually empowers you because you're the one that's reaching forward, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
the one that wants to shift. You're the one that's thinking a new thought. You're the one that's having a new feeling. You're the one that's exposing yourself to a new way of thinking or a
Right.
new way of being or even a new person. And that desire to go into the unknown alerts fear. And so fear goes, wait a second, she's getting too big for her britches. I got to shut her down.
I got to give her something else to be
I got
afraid
to
of.
get, yeah, I've got to give her some distraction. I got to give her something. So
Right.
people pleasing, come on, start people pleasing, right?
Yeah.
So when you say it's a defense mechanism against fear, not again that that's not quote unquote accurate, but it puts
Right.
you again in the powerless position.
In that victim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so my whole way of being and my whole philosophy is that I believe that people are always searching and always yearning and always reaching. And how can we empower them in that state
Right.
rather than continuously kind of disempowering them? Like just even the word negative. People go,
Right.
"Oh, the world is so negative now." I say, "Is it negative? Or is it just the world? Is it just so the car accident? Oh, that's so negative. It's just a car accident. There's
Right.
war.
The
It's not
thing.
negative. It's literally just a war, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so most people name things that they don't want to think about or don't like as negative, right?
Right.
Well, the minute you do that, you're putting yourself in a yes, no, black, white, right or wrong, place, and
Right.
automatically cuts you, the person, off from opportunities, possibilities, ways of being, connections,
Sure.
everything.
Hmm.
So, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to call things negative. We want to, as you know, neutral, keep things neutral.
Right.
So eliminate the words negative, eliminate the word positive, just as much as you can. Of course, we're going to do
Right.
it. I'm going to do it. You're going to do it. We're going to do it.
Right. Right. So do you feel like it's an ongoing process continuously that we're constantly working on these fear responses that we have? Or do you think that we at some point like arrive? I mean, I know what I think the answer to that is, but
Well, there again, I think I said already that we have to, like fear is always going to be activated because we're always growing.
yeah.
But
So
but
if we're living authentically, then we should be fearful at times.
yes,
Yeah.
except the difference is that my company's name Fearless Living Institute, FLI. So we call it,
Right.
we say fly. Well, that
Oh, I love
FLI
that.
also stands for something else: frequency, length, and intensity. So let's say you beat yourself up. And let's say you now understand your core fear, which I haven't answered that question yet. So let's say you
Right.
now know your core fear, you now have your wheel of fear, you know how to work it, and you know how to get on your wheel of freedom. Well, the frequency in which you are activated decreases. The length in which it lasts lessens, and
Right.
the intensity in which you feel it decreases.
Right.
So
Right.
you might experience it, but before it was a 10 and now it's a 2,
Okay.
right? And
That
oh, by
makes
the
sense.
way, these 20 things that used to trigger you, only one does now.
Right.
So it is a very different relationship to fear. It's basically, I'm going to offer a free course to your listeners called Stretch, Risk, and Die. And basically, the wheel of fear doesn't bother you if you're in the comfort zone. If you're sitting on the couch with your couch eating Doritos, it's not going to bug you. Wheel fear is not
Right.
activated, right? It's
Sure.
only activated when you are contemplating. And again, it could be just a new thought, by the way,
Right.
not even an action. I
Sure.
mean, you talk to a woman who hasn't dated for 20 years and you suggest dating, she's like, what? Right? So that stretch, risk, and die, if you want to get into the stretch zone, you have to move past fear. If you want to get in the risk zone, you have to move past fear. If you want to get in the desire die zone, you have to move past your fear.
Right.
So again, once you become facile in that, once you become skilled with that, the stretch, risk, and dies basically expand, right? What used to be a stretch before is now in your comfort zone. What used to be a risk is now a comfort zone. And your
Right.
die is, you don't even know what your die will be because it's not even in your frame of reference right now, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
because what I want you to do is be comfortable being comfortable, in your skin everywhere with anyone at any time.
Yeah. And not have that fear response. When you're talking about that, it reminds me of, when we're new veterinarians and we're just learning how to do surgery,
Mhm.
that's super scary, right? Because you don't know what could happen, you're not real good at it yet. And so every time you go to get into a surgery, you kind of have a fear response
Yes.
because of what could happen.
Yes.
And as you do more and more of them, they do get more comfortable, but you're not really consciously making that choice. So there's a difference between what you're saying and the competency that happens naturally.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Yeah. So let's say that you have this fear coming in, which again is natural. That's a normal thing because you don't know
Sure.
it's a new skill. It's unknown. Of course, fear is going to come up.
Right.
So if I was coaching that veterinarian, I would say, okay, great. So what's your strategy? What are you going to do in order, before you go into surgery, at surgery, after surgery, like having a whole plan there. And
Right.
I would actually ask them to move on to their wheel of freedom. So that's the thing is once you understand what your core fear is and your fear responses and the other aspects of the wheel of fear, then you discover what I call your essential nature on your wheel of freedom. And that
Mm.
becomes your go-to. So whether it's going into a networking event and somebody gives you a dirty look and so you're like, these people aren't my
And
people,
it's
or
scary
yeah, it's
because there's a
scary,
lot of
right?
strangers around and I'm an
Yeah, right,
introvert. Yeah.
right. Or you're, raising your prices for the first time, or you're doing
Yes. That
surgery,
was
right?
scary.
It was
Yeah.
really scary, right?
Mhm.
So, of course, because it's the unknown.
Right.
So, one, don't beat yourself up for being scared. Of course,
Yeah.
you're going to be scared. Duh.
Sure.
Yes.
Just
So, right. So,
accept it.
normalize it, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Normalize that that's just
Right.
normal.
Normalize. Yep.
But again, you want to move into your wheel of freedom, which then in the wheel of freedom, you have your essential nature and that becomes your go-to. So that whenever you have your fear pop up, whether it's a 3, a 5, a 8, or a 10, you go to your essential nature, start doing your proactive behaviors that are in alignment with your essential nature, and you have something to do. Instead of thinking about it, instead of worrying about it, instead of saying, I shouldn't be here, that's irrelevant. That
Right.
is all of that's irrelevant.
And that's hard. It's hard to change your thoughts. It's harder to change your thoughts, I think, sometimes. So if you have an action, which it sounds
That's
like
right.
that's what you're doing,
That's right.
you can change your feelings with that. Okay.
That's right. And so moving from the wheel of fear and wheel of freedom, going back to the neuroscience to change your perception, the minute you're looking through the wheel of fear, that's one perception, right? But
Right.
when you actively choose to get on your wheel of freedom, you are choosing a new way of seeing the world. So you're
Right.
literally changing the way you see it, yourself and the world. So you're
Yeah.
literally choosing a new perception.
Which is
And then
powerful.
so powerful. And over time, of course, the neural pathways are built. And so
Right.
to do that becomes a heck of a lot easier and a heck of a lot faster and automatic, right?
Yes.
I mean, I think
Yeah.
about me and how I used to, I'm writing a memoir right now and I'm reading all these old diaries, right? And
Right.
God, the level of beating myself up and just, oh my God, right? Like
Yeah.
just, oh, holy crapola, right? Just the level,
Right.
read these
Yeah.
diaries.
Writing is a slog.
Oh,
If you've
I
never
just
done
love,
it, it's hard.
well, I just love that those girls at those ages, those women at those ages that I'm reading, and just the level of beating myself up page after page after page. And I think to myself, God, huh, when was the last time I did that? Huh.
You don't remember.
it's not part of my reality. Again, not that I probably don't do it sometimes, but it just moves so fast.
Yeah.
It's not part of me anymore.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Beating yourself up is the number one way the grease spins the wheel of fear. Number one way. And you are propelling that grease because you're the one beating yourself up.
Yeah.
So in the world of fearless living, you never, ever, 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 ever get to beat yourself up or another human being. That's
Yeah.
unacceptable.
I love that. Tell me about the wheel of fear.
Sure, sure. So
Explain that to me.
it'll answer the other question you asked, which is there a certain number of core fears? And
Yeah.
the answer
Yeah.
is yes. The answer is yes. So like
Okay.
I said, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've done thousands of people's wheels. And what I did is I really paid attention and filtered down the 10 core fears that kept coming up over and over and over again.
Okay.
Now,
So you compiled this by talking to people and
yes,
interviewing people.
yes.
Okay.
Well, doing the work, like literally
Right.
coaching
Right.
people, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
People after person after person after person after person after person,
Sure. Yeah.
and over years, right? So I wrote this book maybe I think the fifth year that I was coaching.
Okay.
So and I was coaching like 20 people a week. So I had a
Right.
full-time practice.
Yeah.
And then I was doing workshops once a week, and then bigger workshops once a month. So I was coaching lots of people and
A
putting
lot.
their wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just kept coming down to these top 10, right? And so what I do is I help people identify what theirs is of these 10. And then what ends up happening is the response I hear when they get their wheel, their core fear, is relief. And the first words normally they say to me is something to the effect of, now I know why I've done everything in my life.
Mm.
I know why
Yeah.
I got
Because
married. I
it's
know why I got
understanding
divorced.
yourself, right?
It's completely like the veil has been lifted, the curtain
Right.
has been drawn, right?
Yeah.
And so instead of that regret and beating yourself up about your past quote unquote decisions, past what you call mistakes, right? People call them mistakes. You now
Right.
go, oh, I did that because of I was activated on my wheel of fear. Oh, oh. So just knowing your wheel of fear increases your level of compassion immediately.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Because then you understand.
you understand.
Yeah.
And more importantly, you see it because we want to get
Right.
it out of our brain and into our body,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So we want to get it into our heart and into our body. So there's four aspects of the wheel of fear. And I'm going to show you a picture now. And I'm sure you're from Michigan, so you know when you take a screw and you want to get a screwdriver, you go righty tighty to close it and
And lefty
lefty
loosey.
loosey to open it, right? To take it
Right.
out. So the wheel of fear is righty tighty because you tighten up as you go around the wheel.
Okay.
The wheel of freedom is lefty loosey because you loosen, right? You loosen yourself up,
Gotcha.
become more
Mhm.
true to yourself. Now I'll say other thing before we go into the wheel of fear is that people are not in their wheel of fears 24/7 and
Right.
not on their wheels in every area of their life.
Sure.
So somebody might be amazing in their business and their fear comes up in their intimate relationship. Or they
Mm.
might be amazing in their intimate relationship and their fear comes up with their family, right?
Right.
So what I ask people to do always is think of the area in your life that has continued to be a thorn in your side, that continues to be something that you have to revisit time and time again, that continues to be an area where you just cannot master it. There's just continues to be some issues there. So
Right.
that's the area when I'm talking about the wheel of fear that I want everyone to think about, not
Okay.
the area that they already on their wheel of freedom, right?
Right.
So
Right.
remember, the wheel of fear is not activated unless you move into the unknown or even contemplate it or even smell it. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So it is four components. And the first one is called the trigger. And
Okay.
that trigger is that core fear.
Okay.
Now, the trigger goes up to fear responses. And we already did. Oops, let me get that. Oh, can you see that? I'm thinking.
I can see it. Yeah, it's a little
Oh,
blurry.
there you go. There you go. A little bit
There
better.
you go. That's better.
So we got the trigger. And
Yeah.
we're going to move up to our fear responses. Okay. And
Okay.
I'll explain
Yep.
each one in a minute. From the fear responses, we go to the core negative. And the core negative, we go down to self-destructive behaviors, which then
Gotcha.
gets the wheel again, right?
Gotcha.
So let's just talk about each one for just a quick second. The trigger.
Okay.
The trigger was created by the time you were 7 years old. It's your environment, it's who you were raised by, it's who you hung with. But neuroscience also tells us that fears are handed down through our DNA.
Mm.
So when people usually come in the beginning, they will, why am I like this? Why am I like this? Why are you like this is actually irrelevant. There
Right.
is no there
Doesn't
is no
matter.
magical moment because everyone thinks that if they had the magical moment, then it would unlock them.
Or if my parents weren't mean to me, or
Right.
if my brother didn't beat me up, or yeah, everybody thinks that, yeah, you
Again,
can't go back, right?
right. Well, it's also might have influenced your wheel,
Right.
but it did not create your whole wheel, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you came into this life with this, probably most likely with this core fear. And then it was validated by the experiences in your life. It was
Right.
proven true. Okay. And every
Sure.
time it got proven true, you, unbeknownst to you, got better at hiding it, got
Mm.
better at avoiding it, got better at putting it aside.
Right.
Because this, the trigger is the thing you do not want people to think about you. You don't want them to smell you around you. You don't want them to think it. You don't want it to say it. If they think this about you, you're done. You'd be
Right.
devastated. It would be devastating. Okay.
Gotcha. Yep.
So, and I'm not
Sense.
talking about just anybody. I'm talking about somebody you really honor and respect. We're talking about
Right.
Jesus or your mom or, you know,
Right. Right.
right? Or even I always
Something
tell
big.
people, think of a nonfiction character if you want from your favorite book.
Right.
Like if they told you this word, called you this word, how devastated would you be? Right?
Right.
Like somebody you
Yeah.
really admire.
Hmm.
And people normally say to me, well, they'd never say it. I go, I understand they'd never say it. But
Let's
let's
just
say they did.
pretend.
Let's just say they did. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
So that's your trigger. And now I'm going to tell you mine
Okay.
just to be an example. So my
Okay.
trigger, my core fear is loser. Now,
Okay.
think about my life. Straight A student, class president, you know, lead of the plays, lead of the choirs, for
Right.
college, right?
Yeah.
Right? Nobody, nobody has ever called me a loser.
Right.
Nobody's even smelled loser around me, right?
Right.
Because you gosh darn make sure it's not going to happen.
Right. Right.
Because
I got
it,
that. I got that handled, right?
yeah, right. Well, because if I am perceived as a loser in any way, shape, or form, then I am a loser,
A
right? So
loser.
I have to hide that. Now, again,
Right.
what I want to say is, you don't know this.
No, you have to figure it out, right?
You have to go through a series of exercises that, for me
Sure.
personally, for I created, because
Right.
the wheel does not want to be found. Because if it's found, the jig is up,
Right.
and then it can't protect you.
Yes.
So it does not want to be found at all costs. Okay. So I can't
Right.
tell you how many people pick, most people don't know people will tell me, like, I was on the phone with a client the other day. Oh, I know my wheel of fear. Oh, okay. What do you think it is? Oh, it's stupid. Okay. And then he goes on to perceive how, oh, I can't
Why?
be
Yeah.
stupid. And he tells me why.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, that's not your trigger.
Yeah.
If you've been called it your whole life, if you're comfortable saying the word, if that's kind of like in your field of beating yourself up,
Vocabulary. Yeah.
it is not your
Not
trigger.
it.
It's not it. So then let's say that I go into that network event, right? And that person gives me a dirty look. Okay. Now let's say I'm unaware of my trigger in this moment. Well, for me, that dirty look means, again, I'm unconscious of it.
Right.
It activates loser. It like
Right.
pokes it, right?
Yeah. Like your brain thinks that, but you don't really realize that it
I
is.
don't realize it, right? And
Right.
so then it pokes me, and then I go into fear responses to prove that's not true, right?
Sure.
So
Yep.
go into bragging, go into people pleasing, go into overpromising, right? And by the way, some of our fear responses are the way we get love. People pleasing, that's the way we get love sometimes, right?
Yep.
People like us because we overachieve, we overwork, right?
Hmm.
So our fear responses, all the things we think are our problems, are actually, like I said earlier, just our response to when we're activated by fear. And by
Right.
the way, when we're activated by fear, we're actually stretching, growing, right? So,
Sure.
so I start doing my fear responses, right? The number one thing I tell my clients to start with is really getting clear on their fear responses, because that's the first way you're going to know you're on your wheel of fear. You're not going to know it in the beginning. You're not going to sense loser, right?
Right.
You
But you're
are
going to
going,
see what you're doing.
you're going to see and hear what you're doing. You are going
Gotcha.
to know, and you're going to be like, holy crap, right?
Like
And
there
then
it is.
there it is. And then
Yep.
you will be able to, I call it trace back to see how it is triggered to
How
lose
it
it, right?
started. Yeah.
Right. So neither here nor there, we go fear responses. And you and I both know if we do these people pleasing, bragging, judging, procrastinating, what do we end up doing? We end up feeling horrible about ourselves.
Right.
And that's our core negative feeling. And most everyone knows their core negative feeling because you felt it a million times.
Right.
My core negative feeling is worthless. So I, Rhonda, if I do my fear responses and get on that train, I will end up feeling worthless. Now, I, Rhonda, when I feel worthless, that is a slide right into self-destructive behaviors.
Right.
So that used to be drinking or suicide attempts for me, right?
Right.
Or DUIs, right? So now it's, eating a pint of ice cream, right? Or maybe
Right.
it's sleeping too much or isolating myself, right?
Yeah.
But we all know our self-destructive behaviors. All of us know what we do when we hate ourselves and when we're so disappointed in ourselves and we wish we couldn't do
Right.
it, right? But we can't stop ourselves. So those are
Right.
self-destructive. So the minute you're doing self-destructive behaviors, it just validates the fear. That it just validates. See,
Told you were a loser.
told you, right?
Yeah.
So the good news is you can get off your wheel of fear the minute you become aware of it. So the minute you do a fear response, you can get off it. The minute you're in your core negative, you can get off it. The minute you're even thinking about self-destruction, you can get off it.
Right.
Your awareness determines how fast you can move.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that sometimes takes a little bit of time.
Yes, absolutely.
People. Like when I'm coaching people, I'll say, okay, well, why do you think that's happening? And at first they have no idea. And then eventually it's like, oh, that's because I think this and I do this, and then they kind of go down that rabbit hole of all the
Mhm.
things they've been doing all their life and
Mhm.
that they're now starting to figure out, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, because
Yeah.
it takes a compassionate soul to be a witness.
Mm-hmm.
We all need a witness.
Yeah.
And if we don't have a compassionate soul in our lives, i.e., best friend, somebody in our family, our partner, if we don't have that compassionate soul, we need one in order to do this work.
Right.
And one of my fundamental philosophies in my teaching and in my coaching certification, the number one skill is seeing people's innocence. And
Yeah.
that's a Jesus skill, right? Like that's
Right.
like
Yeah. That absolutely
people,
is.
right? People go, "Oh, I see their innocence." It's like, "Yeah, really, do you?" I don't. I'm kind of
Maybe
thinking
not.
no, but okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
Because
we judge. Yeah.
yeah, and judging, you're not seeing their innocence, right?
Right. Right.
I mean, the number one thing I hear from coaches so often is, I got to get new clients because my clients are not serious. My clients are just, I've got to get a better quality of client. And what I train my coaches to do is if that's how they're feeling, I got to get a better quality of client, you better become a better coach, okay?
Right.
Because it's
Right.
not the
Something's
client, it's
wrong.
you. It's you.
Yeah. Right.
It's your inability to coach them.
Yeah.
Um, so then the Wheel of Freedom, I don't know, did you want to go there too?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. I'm
So the
very
wheel
interested
of
in
the
this.
Wheel of Freedom has four components as well. For some reason, I think my camera's slimy. So Wheel of Freedom has four components. Number one is the essential nature. And again, lefty loosey. So the essential nature goes into the proactive behaviors on top. And then the proactive behaviors dump you into what I call wholeness. And then that puts you into self-affirming. Okay.
I love
So
it.
essential nature. What is essential nature? So remember, the core trigger is the thing that you do not want anyone to think about you.
Right. So in your case, it would be loser.
Yeah.
In my case, it'd probably be
Well, let me give you the 10 and you can.
not wanting people to think, yeah. Yeah, give me the 10 and I'll pick one.
And again, you'll pick one for now, but I dare say it most likely won't be correct, but you're close, right?
Right,
You'll
right,
be in the
right.
ballpark, right?
Yeah.
So, do you have somebody in mind that you love and admire and respect, and just like their opinion of you matters really, really a lot? And again, it can be fiction, it can be somebody dead, it can be book and a character in a book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got somebody? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, again, we know they wouldn't say it. We know
Right.
that
Right.
logically, right?
Right. Right.
But I want you to imagine they do. And
Okay.
they come to you and say, the reason you haven't gotten where you want to go, the reason you have this reoccurring problem, the reason ABC, whatever you have that problem that you have, they're going to come and have a coming to Jesus talk with you and tell you exactly why that keeps reoccurring. And this is why, and you've got to face it. Okay.
Right. Right.
So, Julie, I'm just going to tell you right now, I haven't been wanting to say this. I know you think you're all given. But really, at the core, you're just a selfish person. You just are selfish. You think about yourself all the time. It's always that self awareness, me, 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 me. It's always what you're thinking. Okay.
Yeah.
Stupid. You're just not smart enough for this education. You're just not smart enough to get to the level you want. Again, there's nothing wrong with being stupid,
Right.
but you're just not intelligent enough.
You're not. Yeah, you don't
Um,
have it.
you're weak. You're a weak person. You're just weak. You don't have the strength. You don't have the core. You don't have the character.
Mm-hmm.
Julie, you're incompetent. You're incompetent. Yes, you've had some success here and there, but you and I both know that's been hard work. Like you are incompetent. Julie, I hate to break the news to you, but you are ordinary. You're not anything special. So
Oh yeah, that hurts.
yeah, I don't see why you think that you're going to be different than everyone else and have this
Yeah,
extraordinary life. You're just
right.
ordinary. Loser. You're a loser. You're a loser, and you're never going to get beyond that. You need to settle into who you are and what you're doing. Julie, you walk around and you are fake. You're putting on a mask. You're just faking your way through life. On the core, you're lazy. Now, I know you run around busy, 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 busy all the time because I can see that you're running around busy, but you and I both know all the things you do are not the important things. You are lazy. You're not willing to do the things that really matter.
Yeah.
Invisible. Julie, you're just invisible. You hide out, you pretend, or you and I both know that you just try to get really loud to make sure everybody sees you, but you are definitely afraid of being invisible
Yeah.
and rejected. Oh my God. You reject yourself before anybody else can reject you. You reject yourself.
Yeah.
So,
So those are the 10.
yep.
Okay. So
So,
as you were going through that, the ones that really like landed and the thing I wrote even before you said it was lazy. Um, and maybe invisible or rejected. So I would have to work on it to figure out what the exact one is.
right.
But the one that I wrote before you even gave me that in your list was lazy.
Yeah. So, and you also had a reaction to ordinary.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So one of the things is that many times the word that it is something that you do not react to the first time around
Okay. So it's
because
buried in there somewhere.
it's like you can't even
Yeah, you don't even
you
know.
can't
Yeah.
even contemplate that. Like
Right.
that would
Right.
that would never be true, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So you just brush it off. So
Right.
anyway, I have a series of exercises in my book, Fearless Living. There's 3 ways to get your wheels. Go through my book, Fearless Living. Two, go to my website, fearlessliving.org, and go under Get Coached, and you'll see the Fearless Living Transformation Program. And that is my self-paced course that
Yeah.
take you through the wheels. And by the way, sometimes I teach that live.
Oh,
So
nice.
look out for that. I just taught it
Right.
like 2 weekends ago. And
Yeah.
then also working with a certified Fearless Living coach. So whether that's
Right.
me or another coach, we can take you through
Right.
the process.
Yeah.
So I always
Love that.
say you can get it probably maybe close, but
Right.
after if you work with it for 3 months and it's not hitting, then you probably want to up level your game. And
Yeah. Well, anybody that's been through coaching or therapy, I shouldn't say that because that's a generalization, but a lot of us who have been through those things have learned a lot about ourselves.
yeah,
But my opinion is you can always learn more.
yeah,
Like I love being coached because every once in a while I go, oh, I didn't realize that.
yeah,
Like that's what you're looking for when you're
yes,
getting coached, right? Or,
yeah,
hopefully if you have a good therapist, it's similar, but it's like that's the thing that I'm trying to solve, but I couldn't find it on my own.
that's right, that's
Like,
right.
do you agree? Yeah.
Right. I can't find it things on my own, right? So
Right.
the joke of the century with me and my BFF, my best friend Marta, I'll like be saying to her some issue or some problem. And
Yeah.
then I'll say, well, Marta, coach me, whatever I'll say, like, because we have an agreement that when either one of us wants to vent or we ask, do you want to be coached or do you need a friend?
Right. Exactly.
And
There's a
so,
difference.
yes. And so I go, oh, no, I want to be coached.
Yeah.
And then this is what she does to me all the time. Well, if you had a client, and then she describes the exact thing I just got done saying. I mean,
Yeah.
she literally says the exact thing. And I
Right.
always roll my eyes and I go, I don't want to coach myself. She goes, uh-huh. Anyway, so this client you have, and then she repeats it and she makes me coach myself.
Right.
And so I do coach myself because
Right.
best friend makes me. But you have to be willing to be wrong about everything. So one of the things that I say to
Sure.
clients is you have to be wrong about everything to find the right life for you.
Yes.
Be wrong about everything. So if you're not willing to be wrong about everything, you are not open to finding the right life because you're more attached to keeping your identity in place and
Keeping things the way they are.
well, to belong, because our
Right.
greatest need is belonging, right?
Yeah.
So that belonging and that connection, we really want that. And we're not sure how to get it any other way.
Right.
So, but we have to decide that.
Because this is the way we've learned it.
Yeah, so we think
throughout
this
our
is the way it
lives.
is, right? Like
Right.
this is one of the things that I hear over and over from people who first come to Fearless Living when they're first getting their wheels and things. Um, will talk about and they'll confess that one of the reasons they didn't do it right away is because they were afraid they'd change too much. They're afraid that their partner wouldn't like him or that their friend would feel like they're being uppity. Like, who
Interesting.
do you think I
Yeah.
am, right? Or their
Right.
family would think like, oh, quit coaching me, right? I don't want to hear all that self-help, right?
Right. Right.
So a lot of people do not grow and change because of the fear of what their family, friends, and coworkers will think.
Right. Right.
And so that's, of course, you and I know it's the very reason to do it because
Sure.
this is what I'll tell them. Then those people are running your life.
Right.
So let them run your life and quit
They're not
complaining.
making the
Well,
decisions. Yeah.
hand it over, hand your life over, and
Right.
let them do it, and no
Right.
more complaining because you've handed it over.
Right. Yeah. You've allowed them to
Well,
dictate
you've
the way
given
you're
up
going
your
to show up.
responsibility. You've given up your
Right.
sovereignty. You've given up your
Yeah.
agency, right?
Yeah.
So if you've done that, then that's okay. That's okay. You can do that. But then
Yeah.
you don't get to complain and you don't get to be upset about your life.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm going to change the subject. Do we need to do more on this?
No, we can change the subject.
I think you covered it really, really well. I mean, it gives me the enough to understand what you're talking about, but the desire to want to look into it more,
Yeah.
which is
Excellent.
exactly what we want, right?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask you a little bit about the Oprah show, because it said you
Okay.
were a repeat guest on Oprah
Mhm.
and how that was, and also the TV show.
Oh, well, I've done
Three of
three.
them you said you were
Yeah,
on. Yeah.
I've been on three series.
Yeah.
The first one was when I was in England on my book tour for Fearless Living. There was no such thing as reality television.
Right.
And it was 2001 when I did my first show. So there's no such thing as reality. I'm in England, who started reality television. And
Right.
my publicist is like, Rhonda, there's a production company that wants to start a reality show with a life coach. And they've been auditioning people for 9 months in the United States and the United Kingdom. They can't find anyone to do it. They wondered if you would audition. And of course, I was an actress, right? I'm like, oh, yes.
Right. You're like, heck
Oh,
yes.
oh, yes, I will do that. And so the
Right.
next day, they have a 25, 28-year-old in front of me and coaching her dating. And as you can see, I'm very forthright and I'm
Right.
animated naturally.
Yeah.
And so I'm animated naturally and very forthright and naturally. And so 3 weeks later, I'm living in London, shooting the
Doing
first
the
episode of
show.
the show. Yeah. So I did 2 seasons there for 2 years. And then when I came back after the second season, because after every season, I came back to the States. So after the second season, I came back to the States as usual. And starting over was casting for Life Coach, and they were going to change lives. And it was a 5 day a week show. It was an NBC at
Oh,
noon
wow.
every day, 5 days a week
That's a lot.
for 3 years. Yes. And so I also had like 5 offers from production companies to create a show for me. And I went to the meet with the executive producers for starting over. And I said to them, they go, oh, this is the way the show's going down, right? Like, this is what we want for the show.
Right.
Now, mind you, I'm the only one in the world that's done it. So I looked at him, I said, that's not what's going to happen.
That's not going to work. Yeah.
That's not the way it goes down. Let me tell you.
Right. Yeah.
And so I actually said to myself, they're going to cast me if they want somebody that knows what they're doing, but if they want full control, they will not cast me because I know more.
Right.
Kudos to them, they cast me. And so I was on TV every single day for 3 years. And it was so funny because my show Help Me Rhonda was also airing in Israel, Australia, and around Europe at night during the same time.
Wow.
So I
Nice.
was at night, I was during the day. I couldn't walk outside without getting recognized. So
Yeah. You were a star.
yeah, well, yeah, like a D-level celebrity, in the reality
Right.
world,
Right.
yes.
Yeah. D-list.
Yeah, D-list, right. And so then I personally went through a dark night. And then when I came out of my dark night, I did my third show, which is Celebrity Fit Club. So then I worked with celebrities.
I remember that Celebrity Fit Club.
Yeah,
I think I even watched it.
yeah.
Now I got to go back and find it. Are they still out there? Can we go watch them still?
I have no idea.
Okay. I'm going to look them up
Great,
because
awesome.
I love reality TV. It's fun. And then what
Well,
about,
and if you watch Starting Over, so people that watch Starting Over, you either loved Starting Over or you didn't know about Starting Over. So
yeah.
Starting Over is like a really fanatical fan base because they would sit there with their book in hand, and I would assign exercises and I would change people's lives and they would follow along. And I can't tell you how many people have approached me over the last year, over the years. Can't tell you how many people. and said, "Oh, I did every exercise you gave to Sally. I did every exercise
Oh,
you gave
and
to
it
Jack."
helped them.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
100%. That's the
it's
purpose.
amazing.
I knew when I was on those shows that I was changing lives on, the people that were on the shows,
Right.
but my real purpose was changing the viewers' lives.
Yes. Well, yeah, because you can reach so many more people, right?
Yes. Well, we had 3 million viewers a day.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. Wow. Cool. So what have I not asked you
Oh gosh,
that
what?
I should have?
Oh, geez, I don't know. Um,
I just want to
um,
make sure that we cover, what
oh,
you think is important. And I'm sorry, but it's hot in this room and I'm sweating.
that's okay. That's okay. It's good. It's good to be alive, and sweating is like you're alive and
I know. I'm like, I'm all sweaty.
yeah, no, but that's okay. That's lovely.
It
You're
gets hot in
glowing.
my office with all the
You're
lights on
you're
and the
you're
computers
glowing. You're
running.
glowing. So it's just a
Yeah,
glow.
that's what it is. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So I would just say that it can feel like you're too behind. It can for people it can feel like they're too behind,
Okay.
or
Yeah.
they're right there. They didn't start sooner, or um
Yeah, I feel that because, I didn't start life coaching until I was getting ready to retire from my
yeah,
veterinary hospital. And it does, you have that thought. It's like, is it too late?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, most people that become coaches, I can't tell you how many came I used to have a physical office, and people would walk in the office like literally on their 40th birthday and say, "I'm not going to live like this one more minute."
Right.
So,
I need to
40 is
change.
really a key point of change.
Right.
And then now, so many women in their 50s and 60s and even 70s. I have people in their 70s becoming life coaches
Sure. Yeah.
as they have more to give, right? They have a legacy to create. They want to share their wisdom, right?
Right.
Which
Right.
I just admire so much. I mean, I'm just
Hmm.
in awe. So yeah, so we have 66-year-old becoming coaches. We have 45-year-olds becoming coaches. We have
Right.
58-year-olds becoming coaches. And so when people go to that empty nest stage, or they, are at a crossroads, or they're wondering what's next,
Right.
coaching not only, because a lot of coaches come and train and have no desire to actually have clients.
Right.
They want to just be a better
They're just
mother.
interested. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I was talking to one of my coaches. She told me, she goes, I had no desire. I was never going to be a coach for money. She goes, but
Right.
I knew that I would never learn this stuff, get it in my bones unless I went through the coaching program.
Sure.
And I needed to do it for my kids.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah.
such an important thing.
Yeah.
That's what I thought when I started learning coaching. I'm like, man, if I could teach this to my kids,
Yeah.
that's when we should all learn it, right? When we're
That's,
kids or when we're
that's right.
young in our 20s or
That's
whatever.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's never too late. And there's so many things that open your mind, and you have every chance at joy, you have every chance. And my motto is live the life your soul intended. So I do believe that we all have a soul calling, and my job is to help you do it.
I love that. All right. So tell us, well, you kind of already told us where to find everything.
Fearlessliving.org/risk, RISK, is where you can go grab that free course. And that
Risk.
course, again, is called Stretch, Risk, or Die. And
Yes.
it will cure your procrastination. And it will explain how, as you move out of your comfort zone, get off the couch with those Doritos and even contemplate a new shift, or even listen to this podcast through the whole thing,
Right.
might be going into your stretch zone. And even to get in your stretch zone, you have to move through the ring of fear. You have to move through the wheel of
Yes.
fear. And then your risk zone, same thing. Die zone, the same thing. But what that's going to teach you is how to do that and explain it in such a way so that you can actually manifest it and fulfill it. Now,
Right.
not only is it 3 videos, 15 minutes each, and by the way, the last video I explained the Wheel of Fear in detail, so you'll get to see that.
Okay. Cool.
Also, it has a workbook and it has templates, sheets. So if you want to work on health, it's going to give you health examples. If you want to work on business, it's got business examples. If you want to work on family and relationship, right? It's got those examples to give you a,
Yes.
a, a brainstorming start.
Right.
Again, it's going to take you less than an hour. And I challenge everyone to do it within the next 24 hours. Otherwise, they won't do it.
Right.
And you're going to go to fearlessliving.org/RISK, put your name and email in, and then you're going to be access the platform, and you're going to be able to go and take the class. And I
I
promise you,
love
it's
that.
going to shift the way you see yourself.
Well, I will tell you that all veterinarians, at least that's my opinion, and people that work in our industry could use this kind of help. And all humans, really. I mean, we're all trying to become better, hopefully. And that brain. It's a tough thing to overcome.
Well, yeah, it's just the brain is wired a certain way. It's part of our neurobiology. And once you understand how the brain is wired, then it it becomes, let's say, easier. It
Right.
becomes,
It's still work. Yeah, it's still you still have to put some work in, right?
you still have to build awareness,
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
the big thing.
Awareness is the key. And
Yeah,
then the next key is willingness. So I always say willingness is, like the slippery slide into your new life. So you
right.
must be willing to get from the wheel of fear to the wheel of freedom, right? You must
Yeah.
be willing. So you're aware of it, you see the wheel of fear, you're on the wheel of fear, and then you have to ask yourself, am I willing to get on my wheel of freedom? Or am I just comfortable being petrified? Am I
Staying
comfortable
where I am and just
judging? Do I
yeah,
love myself when I'm judging? Do I love myself when I'm comparing and complaining? Do I like
right.
that about me? Well, if you do,
And I'm
good
procrastinating.
work, right?
Yeah,
If
just
you
stay.
but again, probably not. So then
Right.
use the word if you feel like I'm not motivated, I don't know, I don't just use the word willing. I'm willing to be
Yeah,
willing.
I'm willing.
I'm
Hmm.
willing to be willing. Just
Yeah,
start
I love
there.
that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been really fun. It's been great meeting you. All of this stuff is very relevant to, I'm sure, all the people out there listening, and they'll get a lot out of it. And so if you are out there, definitely check out um, check out Rhonda's book, check out her website and learn these things
And get the course. And there's nothing
and
wrong
get
with
the
you. It's just
course.
fear. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just fear. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just fear.
Right, right. I love that. Yeah, that is a really great sentence. There's nothing wrong with me.
That's right. It's just fear.
Yeah, it's just fear. Yeah, it's our human fear. I love that. So thanks so much for listening, everyone, and have a beautiful week. And I'll talk to you again next week. Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you.